Welcome to Community Connections with Children's Services Council, St. Lucie County. I am just one of your humble hosts, Sean Boyle, with me is
Ashley Mott.
And welcome to the half-hour radio program that airs every Sunday on 104.5 The Flame at 10 a.m. thanks to a wonderful partnership with Alice Lee and her entire crew over there at The Flame, but also because of a wonderful partnership with St. Lucie Public Schools. Once a month, we come into the WLX studio and we do the televised version of the show. So if you're watching us on your cable provider and you want to see past shows, just go to WLX TV on YouTube, look up Community Connections, and have yourself a good time watching all those past episodes. And they go way back.
They go way back.
They go back, I think, 9 years.
Close to.
You can see the grain of
You can
the
see
host.
us age.
Yeah. And you can tell also that the show has not gotten any better from a professional standpoint. But what we do on this show, I should also mention that if you are interested in this show, where we talk about resources and things that are available for children and families in St. Lucie County, we already talked about that it's on The Flame every Sunday at 10 a.m. So if you're watching us on WLX TV, make sure you're up at 10 a.m. or at 10 a.m. set your radio station on Sundays to 104.5 The Flame. Obviously on WLX TV, we also broadcast the video on our Facebook page. Just look up Children's Services Council St. Lucie. But also, because you know what, Ashley?
That wasn't
it's
enough.
not enough. We are also a podcast. This radio show is also a podcast available on all your major platforms, including Apple. I choke a little bit when I say that, as well as Google and all the other major networks.
Such an Apple hater.
But so if you want to know, if you want to stay in the know and know about the resources, multiple ways to do it, but you can always subscribe to the podcast. It's magic. It gets delivered right to your phone and you can stay on top, because at this show, while talking about resources and things that are available at children and families, the reason why we, Ashley and I, who work for the Children's Services Council of St. Lucie County, do this show is because at the Children's Services Council, we have 5 priorities that we work on every single day. And those priorities are: 1, making sure every baby's a healthy baby; 2, stopping child abuse before it happens; 3, keeping kids off the streets; 4, keeping them in schools, wait for the head nod; and 5, keeping them off drugs, alcohol, and other risky behaviors. And we do that by working with the community to offer programs and resources in those priority areas.
And I'm glad that you counted all of them. I appreciate you.
I hesitated to make sure you were head nodding at the same time.
I was counting on
the
it.
cadence of it.
So this show is really a great way to learn more about those programs, but there's obviously, we like to be multifaceted, so there's a couple different ways that you can learn more about them as well. Our website is obviously one of them, cscslc.org. We share a lot of information there about our funded programs, what they're doing, special events that we are involved in that are happening in the community, and success stories. And I want to talk about that for a second because, you and I have conversations with people in the community all the time about particular programs, if they ask us for a resource or something like that. But sometimes if you're not in the middle of a situation where you or a family member or a coworker is looking for a resource, you may not understand the impact that's being had. And we share those success stories on our website, on our Facebook page, in our annual report for that exact reason, so that you can see the impact that it's having on families, because we served over 30,000 children this past year, which you can read more about in our annual report, but each one of those children was impacted through a program that we fund. And that's powerful. And I think that's, when we are out talking in the community with folks, that's something that sometimes gets missed.
Right.
It's people, we're impacting families' lives.
It's the importance of storytelling, right?
Exactly.
People can see themselves in a story about a family because they can relate to what that family's going through.
Right. And we know that, in the last couple of years, families in our communities have endured so many hardships. And so we've been talking a lot on the show about different ways that families can, connect to help or find resources individually. But all of that information is contained on our website. We share a lot of it on our Facebook page. You can always message us. You can call. You could ask. We try to make sure that we're available in various outputs so that all the information is available when you need it or when you need to share it with somebody who might.
And we have a program guide. Now, the best way, let me rephrase that. The most entertaining way to learn about resources in the community is obviously to watch this and or listen to the show.
For sure.
Because we purposely try to make it fun, and I know that's a relative term. But you can also access our family guides to programs. It's available on our website. But if you own a place of business, a place of worship, or a member of a sorority or a fraternity, and you want us to come out and hand deliver them and even talk to you about the state of the child in St. Lucie County, about the resources, we are more than willing to do so. Just call our office at 772-408-1100. Heck, we could even live broadcast a show. Well, not live broadcast, but we could record a show.
We like to have multiple options, so we're willing to work with you.
Look,
whatever you need.
As much as we want to entertain you, we also want to be entertained as well.
Right.
So anything new would be fun and exciting. So
right.
before we get to our guest who's waiting very patiently, and this is her first time in the studio, so I'm surprised she's still sitting here, is a couple things. One, if you haven't noticed, there's this thing in Florida where it goes from being 79 degrees to 90 degrees. It usually happens in about a 2-week span. We are like inches away from that, folks.
So close.
And what that means is that summer is rapidly approaching. Now, I know most teachers have a countdown. They know exactly how many weeks, because I know my wife just told me yesterday how many weeks are left. And I'm sure the students do too, but parents, if you're not aware, summer is rapidly approaching. I believe there's about 8 weeks left of school. My wife should know. I'll phone a friend if I have to, but about 8 weeks left of school. Now is the time to start thinking about what is your child going to do while you're at work, as opposed to being home alone, unattended, or just playing video games, or doing that chores list, which may or may not happen. See if you can enroll them in in a summer program. All of our 17 after-school locations turn into summer programs, and then we are adding an additional, I believe, 12 sites to that. So all said, almost 30 sites across our county, northwest, east, and south.
All over.
And there's something for everyone in there. There's robotics. There's that's going to be doing the high school musical.
I'm really excited
There's
to
the
see
Boys
that.
and Girls Club. There's Future Generations. There's multiple offerings. And the best part of it is that you'll know that your child is safe, that they're in a learning environment. And quite frankly, because of our partnership, the costs are greatly reduced as opposed to going into the private open market, if you will.
Yeah, and I do just want to share, we're recording this show a little ahead of our council meeting where those programs will actually get approved, but we will have information on our website where you can access the listing for all of those summer camp locations, hours of operation that they have, and location. So all of that will be available on our website, and we'll obviously share it on social media once it is. So if you are still looking for a summer camp, you can get everything in one place and find the best fit for your family.
And to let our television audience know, because I believe our radio show audience knows, is that just recently we partnered with 211 to make available in our community a special needs advocate. So if you're a parent or a grandparent or a caregiver of a child with special needs, and look, we know parenting is hard, parents and caregivers with children with special needs probably even have a little bit harder, if you will, or sometimes can run into roadblocks. Or quite honestly, if you just need an ear of somebody to talk to help you navigate the resources that are available to help your child, just call 211, ask for the St. Lucie Special Needs Advocate. It's not just simply, hey, call this number and be done. They're going to come and work with you and have a conversation with you. And the Special Needs Advocate that is serving St. Lucie County actually is a special needs parent.
Yes.
So she's walked in your shoes, she knows the resources and is there to help. So please, 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 if you know of a family member or a neighbor or a congregation member that has children of special needs that they're taking care of, make sure that they're aware of this resource, because again, parenting is hard, right?
Every day.
Every day. And why not have an advocate, somebody that's there in your corner to help make it not so hard and make it manageable. And quite honestly, sometimes just to be an ear to listen.
That's right.
So don't forget, 211, just ask for the St. Lucie Special Needs Advocate.
It's very simple.
Very exciting.
We made it easy.
All right, so I'm wearing blue,
I am not.
but Ashley's eyes are blue. I told her I was going to tease her about this. Ashley's eyes
We'll
are
take
blue.
it.
So if we could zoom in. No, I'm just
please
kidding.
don't. Please don't.
But we're wearing blue for a reason, because April,
Yes.
the month of April, I was like, wait a minute, is it April already? The month of April is Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Yes, and we've talked about it on our social media pages. We kind of share a lot of information about the programs that are doing work that we work with. But we've got great community partners that do, honestly, a lot more in that arena than we do. So we're really excited that they were able to join us today. Sean kind of joked, it's her first time on the show ever, I think.
It doesn't seem right.
It doesn't seem right.
And she hasn't left yet, so these are all good
so
signs.
we're good there. We have had Christina Kaiser on before. But we're really excited today. Cheri Sheffer is with us from Communities Connected for Kids, which I'm going to have to really filter myself today to not use acronyms because there's a lot that come with your world. So Communities Connected for Kids is our, I'm not going to say CBC, but now I can't think of
Community-based care.
Okay, see, there you go. That's why you guys are here.
Teamwork.
Our community-based care entity here along the Treasure Coast. So for somebody who doesn't know what a CBC is or has never heard community-based care, kind of give us a quick overview of what that means.
String together as many acronyms as you can in describing it.
Man,
Yeah.
I worked so
DCF,
hard.
I
CDC, DJJ.
All of the letters. Can you just alphabet soup us?
Kind
for
of
a
the
second?
acronym queen, so watch out what you ask for. Yes, community-based care. Communities Connected for Kids is another term, lead agency. So what that means is we have a contract with the Department of Children and Families that's fairly unique. It's been around for nearly 20 years now, the model of community-based care. And what this means is Department of Children and Families contracts with one nonprofit agency in each circuit of the state. So there's 17 other lead agencies like ours around the state. And our role is to provide services to every known abused and neglected child in our circuit. So the services that we provide range from prevention services through case management services, foster care, support of relative caregivers who are taking care of children that have had to be removed from their homes, up through adoption services for children who can't be returned home, and post-adoption services for those families that have adopted children and then find themselves needing some support or some resources. So it really is the whole range of everything that happens from the time a child comes to the attention of the Department of Children and Families. I told you I couldn't talk without my hands.
You did a
That's
good
okay.
job.
Sean doesn't either, so it's all good. No, I mean, I think that might have been the simplest explanation
Yes.
of it that I've ever heard. So I appreciate that because I think, a lot of times I feel like when child abuse or neglect is brought up in the news or in conversation with people, everyone's first thought is always, well, nobody's looking out for them. Nobody's doing anything about it. Who's taking care of those kids? And that's really the design is for your agency to work with all of the groups that do. And so it's kind of this very spiderwebby intermingled because you do have, like you said, contracted services. So you do have sort of subcontractors that you work with that do individual pieces of all of that.
Absolutely. Yes, we have, we do some of the services directly, and then we all work with many of the agencies that you're probably familiar with, and if I start naming them off, I'll end up leaving some
Yeah,
out.
right. We're familiar with that.
But in the prevention arena, we contract with organizations that deliver parenting skills services. In fact, we co-fund a couple of the services with the Children's Services Council here in St. Lucie, and as well as in Martin County Children's Services Council. So we kind of leverage our state funding along with local funding to make sure the programs can have the capacity they need to meet the needs of the families in our local communities. Community is the key word because when Department of Children and Families, aka DCF, ran it directly, certainly they're in the community, but when you have a community-based care model, it allows us to maybe step aside from some of the bureaucracy that comes along with the state agency and be able to do creative things in partnership with community organizations to really tap into the skills and the services and the resources that are in the community, and also really map that and match that to the needs of the families that is distinct and different in each of the communities of the state.
And you're responsible for 4 counties.
Yes.
Correct?
St. Lucie, Martin, Indian River, and Okeechobee.
And I know this because I don't. Hopefully, this isn't putting you on the spot. But I know from some meetings that you're in that we've got some pretty good news circuit-wide and even in St. Lucie County in regards to the work to prevent child abuse and the work to get children. I was going to say out of the system. I don't mean that as bad, but to get either reunified or adopted.
Yes, we've been, since Communities Connected for Kids has been the lead agency since November 1 of 2013. So coming up on 9 years now, almost 10 years. What is this, 2022? Yes.
Who knows? I don't know.
I just learned it was April, so.
So at least you're ahead of me because I don't even have the year right. But we've been tapping into and providing a lot of emphasis on front-end services. So in other words, kind of making sure that if a child or children can be kept safe in their home, it's much better to do that than go through the disruptive process of removing them and putting them into foster care and then trying to help the parents work on the services and the changes they need to make. If you can make those changes with the child still in the home safely, then that is what you should do. So in partnership with the Department of Children and Families, who still runs the protective investigation function, so they get the call from the abuse hotline, DCF does, and they go out, they conduct an investigation, and they look at safety, risk factors, protective factors that we might be able to build on to keep the families together. And the services that we're subcontract for and the work that we do really to get the services in there as quickly as possible, engage families, and ensure that fewer children have to be removed. So we've had a lot of really good success on the front end with preventing removal. We've also had a lot of success in process tweaks that have allowed us to move children to permanency more quickly. So in other words, if they have had to be removed, and we have parents that unfortunately are not engaging into case plans, a lot of substance abuse and domestic violence it's hard to kick that. And sometimes parents don't have the capacity or choose, to take steps to get their children returned. And by federal law, after a year, we have to move to the termination of parental rights. And once that has happened, the children are available either to be adopted by the foster parents, by the relatives that are caring for them, or if we don't have anybody connected with them, we're seeking adoptive parents for those children. So we've had a lot of success both on the front end and on the back end in making sure that once children are available for adoption, that we can move through that process swiftly. Lots of barriers to that. There's a lot of court pieces and all of those things, but we're making sure that none of our processes are getting in the way. And as a result of the things we've been putting into place over the last couple of years, we're actually #1 in the state and have been for nearly a year on children reaching permanency within 12 months.
Wow.
Yeah, in fact, we're actually presenting, I think next week, we're going to be presenting on a statewide forum about kind of some of the things we put into place to make that happen.
Because that wasn't always the case. Because I can remember in that history a lot of 18 months, 2 years kind of thing. To hear that we're leading in the state is a high compliment to you and your team.
Yes, absolutely, and we're excited about that. It just emphasized, to me, it's not just about how swiftly you do it, but how thoroughly and how safely you do it. So keeping children safely with their families is step one, and when you can't, moving the processes efficiently and connecting the children with families that can be with them forever, and then supporting those families afterwards so that relationship stays solid. So we've, in the past, our circuit has seen typically about 1,200 kids that we're serving in case management at any given time. At this point, we've seen such a reduction because of good processes on the front end, good processes on the back end, that we're down to about 670 kids that are currently under supervision at any given time.
Wow.
So with that comes, it's efficient use of taxpayer dollars. You're able to lower your case manager's caseload so that they can actually get in there and
Better
do
service.
Consistent, thorough work with the children and the families. And it just kind of continues to kind of feed good, excellent services to children and families when your processes are kind of following you. Didn't do it alone. Certainly lots of partnerships.
Right.
Well, that's excellent too, because I know historically a lot of conversation was had around, you keep saying community and the importance of these partners that are local to that process, but historically there were some kids who couldn't be served in our community and had to be transitioned to other places, which, couple that with the disruption that they've already experienced. Now they're moving away from friends, from school, from anything familiar, but that's not the case anymore either. We're trying to keep things really close to home, and so that's awesome.
We're definitely doing better with that. We've invested in partnerships with local organizations to make sure that we have really significant numbers of foster families. So recruiting adequate numbers of foster families to care for your children in the local community is, I mean, I remember when I first came in, I was like, well, we have foster families, but we have kids that are kind of, you've also got to be able to match those.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to match the foster family with the child's needs and the skills of the foster family and their ability. You got sibling groups that you want to try to keep them together, and you'd like, in best case scenario, keeping them within their same community so that school's not disrupted and, you know, they're able to retain as much normalcy as possible during the time they need to be in out-of-home care. So good and effective partnerships with foster organizations, foster care recruitment organizations. Not perfect. We still need foster parents.
Yeah.
We still need lots of foster parents.
Always.
So those
Touted
recruitment campaigns will be ongoing, and then kind of going a little deeper into organizations who can help us support kids that. Their response to trauma is stronger, because sometimes what happens is that, you know, a foster parent can be trained and can be equipped, but if a child or children are having really significant reactions, you need a lot of support around that foster family, or that can disrupt, and then it results in the child having to move, and in some cases out of areas. So working on all of those pieces continually to make sure that we can, you know, make that first placement the right one. It can be relative placements is a focus for us. You know, let's keep them with relatives where the relatives are safe and able to care for the children when the parents can't. That helps support timely reunification and/or timely permanency. So.
And I like what you said. Now, I like to think that everybody that purposely watches or listens to the show is doing it because they care about kids and families. But I know that's not always the case, right? Because we know when we talk to the community, you have to know your audience. And you said something that I just don't want to pass by, was that not only is it obviously better for the child, better for the family, but it saves taxpayers money.
Yes.
Can you elaborate just a little bit on that?
I can. When children are able to be kept in, when children are, one, not having to be removed, you know, keeping children with their parents and wrapping them in support services it keeps. We're not involved in the family for long periods of time when we're able to effectively manage it on the front end. When children do have to be removed, and we can place them with foster families, and the foster families are co-parenting and helping the biological parents kind of strengthen those pieces, then those reunifications can happen more timely. So the more thoroughly and more efficiently you can work with a child and a family, and then let them go on about their lives in a healthy manner, because they've learned the skills that they need to function in life, connecting with those organizations that can provide those supports so that the system doesn't have to be in the family's life for long periods of time. Those kind of things allow you to reinvest more funding when I'm not having to have twice as many case managers because I have twice as many kids.
Right.
I can invest those funds in the front end and prevention services and prevent more children from having to come through the foster care process and system.
Well, and two, I think it's important to note that there's a lot of talk, you know, across the system that some of these things are learned behaviors. Mm-hmm. So some of these incidences of abuse or neglect are learned. And so by being able to have programs or have mentors to come in and support that family and kind of teach them, maybe that's not the best way to do things. Maybe you should try this thing instead. You're really setting them up for self-sufficiency. You're getting out of their life and letting them go on in a safe way, but you're stopping that generational.
You're disrupting.
You know, and that's not just impactful for that family, that's impactful for our community, for generations to come. Yeah. And so I love the focus on prevention. You know, we talk about that a lot. It's a lot of what we do. But I think it can't be understated that really is the key to keeping families together, to keeping kids in their homes, in a safe place. It's really just a level of meeting them where they are and kind of bolstering some of the skills that they have.
We've talked in the past shows when Cheri wasn't here, because it was the first time, about our experience, because you and I both have experience in this system.
Yep.
And I can remember back before there was electricity, when I was a Department of Children and Families investigator, I remember meeting this one gentleman. He was a single father and I got called on the case because he was disciplining his child with an extension cord. And I asked him, I'm like, well, why are you doing that? And he's like, that's what my father did to me. And I promise you, that's what his father did to him.
Yep.
So to your point, to intervene early and to stop that cycle and teach him another way, you've disrupted not just that incident of child abuse, but I promise you, if he had continued to discipline his child that way, when his child became an adult and a parent, he would carry on that family tradition. Because how many of us have said, oh my gosh, that's exactly what my mom or dad said. Because, you know, in times of stress, you revert back to the way you were parented. So to your point, you're disrupting and then educating and changing that lifespan forever, if you will.
Absolutely.
So I know you've talked about, like, I feel like 100 different directions that you guys move, which is accurate.
She does the whole system of care, so there's 100 directions.
really
I haven't even hit them all.
I know, there really are that many. But just a couple of things that you mentioned. Always recruiting foster parents.
Yes.
So if anybody is interested in that, I know we typically focus on it in May during Foster Care Awareness Month, and I have a very intimate relationship with that process. So, but if anybody's interested in foster parent recruitment or learning more, or maybe they have a program that they think would be a good fit and want to talk to you guys about possibly getting involved, where's the best place for them to get that information? How do they get in touch with you guys?
Excellent question, thank you. cckids.net is our website, and on the website we actually have a page where it links you to each of the agencies that does foster care recruitment for us. So we have them published, okay, here's my orientation for my next foster care class, click this button, it'll connect you with the person to get registered or ask questions about that class. So if you go to our website, there's that direct kind of link to each of the subcontractors that we work with that trains foster parents for us. General questions, there's actually a general questions link on our website as well, and it kind of gets to the right department. We also have just a really no wrong door. I mean, pick up the phone, call me, call our office. We will get, we will figure it out. We will get, because it's a, like you said, there's so many different areas and so many different pieces to it, but we believe in no wrong door, and we believe that every situation is fixable. And you know, if we don't have we don't have all of the answers. I know that we don't have all of the answers, but we have excellent partnerships with many different community organizations. We continue to grow, we continue to learn, we continue to seek out those things that are evidence-based and that provide outcomes for children and families, and continue to just try to do what we can to end child abuse. I would love to be put out of a job, because then I would probably be coming to you guys. Hey.
We would welcome that. That would be great.
The prevention work. We need more prevention.
Yeah, but unfortunately, there's still plenty of work to do for all of us. Plenty of work for prevention, plenty of work for foster care, plenty of work for adoption, plenty of families that just really need to be able to connect to supports. A lot of the things that you guys were talking about in the very beginning, very, very keen of importance. Families need supports. Families need connections. Yeah. Especially families that are in risky situations. You know, the more connections we can wrap around families, the more likely we can keep them healthy and able to stay together happily and safely.
So if you're watching the show as we wrap up here, April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and so if you want to know how you can get involved in being involved in the effort to stop child abuse, I'm assuming they could contact you through the website, and whether it be a business, church, or whoever wants to be involved, because it's so important, right? It's really kind of a reflection of our community. And so as we wind down, I want to thank you, Cheri, for coming on.
Thank you.
First time, and thank you for the entire Communities Connected for Kids team for all that you do.
Thank you.
And I want to remind our listeners and viewers that it's a weekly radio program every Sunday on 104.5 The Flame. Once a month, we jump into the WLX studio. You can check that out on YouTube. And of course, you can subscribe to our podcast. Just look up, what's our show called?
Communities.
Community Connections with Children's Services Council.
Connections.
Hopefully you can find it, because clearly we couldn't. But we want to thank you for listening and tuning in and being part of the change in our community. And remember that it's our children, our community, our future. Now more than ever, folks, we're all in this together. We'll see you next time.